Welcome back, everyone. This is the Affirmation Addict podcast, and I am your host, Payal Agarwal. And on today's episode, I will be talking about how to surrender. That is something that I think most of us, we know we're supposed to surrender, but we don't really know how to do it. So in this episode, I'll be sharing some tangible tips and tricks on how to surrender, depending on what type of situation you're going through. Hi everyone, my name is Payal Agarwal and I want to welcome you to the Affirmation Addict podcast. Affirmations have changed my life and now it is my mission to help you use them to change yours by using affirmations every day to manifest things your way. My goal is to make affirmations attainable and accessible to every single person, including you, because you have the ability to take control and create your reality. So come with me on my journey and let's see what we can manifest together. Hello everybody and welcome back. Before I get started, I wanted to give a precursor that this episode is completely unplanned. I have no notes. I have no idea what I'm going to say. I just know I want to talk about what it means to actually surrender, and we'll see where this episode goes. So I hope you enjoy it and I hope it's powerful for you. And I hope you're able to apply some of the things I teach you through my own experiences that I have used that have enabled me to surrender. Okay, so what does it mean to surrender and why is that so powerful? And the reason I think surrendering is so important is because in our culture, in this generation especially, we are taught to plan every single thing out down to the minute. And this is something I'm so guilty of because in college, in high school, I would literally write down my day-to-day schedule and know every single minute where I'm going to be. I would not leave anything up for chance. And I think that is a sign of control. And 90% of people I knew, not just my friends who are like me, but even other people who were really diverse, they did the same thing. We are such a planning and controlling culture. And this obviously goes on to the extent of not only your day, but our life. We just as a society, we're expected by, okay, high school is done, we go to college. After college, you get a job. After you get your job, 2 years later, you meet your soulmate, you get married. 2 years later, you have kids, and that's our life. And that sort of plan is so engraved in most of our minds that it's really, really a sign of how much we're used to having control. And surrendering is the complete opposite of this. So to put it into simpler words, to surrender means to release control. And what that means is ignoring the how, the why, the when, the in what ways, by who, all those questions that we're so used to knowing, like that project plan. I'm going back to my business school stuff and my work, but basically needing to know every single detail of how something is going to happen is the complete opposite of surrendering. And if you take a second and think about it, normally we all live our lives with that control in mind and knowing that we have to control every single outcome. Now, this isn't to get confused with the fact that we don't have control over our lives, but it's more so diving into the deeper aspect of controlling how every single kind of thing that we want in our life is going to manifest. So giving an example of hating your current job so much, but not knowing really what to do. And so this was me about probably 8 months ago. I was in my job. I knew I wanted to quit it, but I hated it. And so all I kept doing, I didn't know how I was going to quit. I didn't know what was going to be my justification to quit because I had no second source of income. It was that job and that's it. I was building this business, but the app I'm creating wasn't going to be ready for a while. And that's still not ready. So I had no for sure proven source of income. So I was really battling with myself. How am I going to quit my job? But I'm so miserable and I hate everything so much about my job. I dreaded every single day waking up. I dreaded going into the office. I dreaded working on my projects because I felt like I was so undervalued. It was just so much negativity, and everything I was doing was just trying so hard to figure out in what ways I can justify myself to quit this job and finding a logical way to start making money. That was the kind of control I started having. And it obviously wasn't working out. There was nothing I could like kind of push forward and make come faster with making a second source of income. But the second I chose to surrender, I was like, you know what? I am going to accept this job for what it is, and I'm going to stop trying to figure out what's going to justify me quitting this job. I'm obviously not happy, and I know that that's not going to change. But what if I just changed the frustration and channeled that into acceptance? I was like, this is how it is, and just trusting that something else is going to come forward. And that's what I did. I literally, one morning, I decided, I woke up to myself, wrote it down in my journal. I accept my current reality. The day I wrote that, I kid you not, my boss told me to take the rest of the day off because he was like, you've been working really hard, take the day off. I got $100 check in the mail for no reason. And I had a really, really good idea that allowed me to start making money in my business that wasn't but making money before, and I was able to start building on that. So it took a few minutes for me to make the choice to accept my current reality. And to put that into simpler terms, a big thing when we are in the middle of like a rut and we're trying to control a situation and we don't know what to do, we're just trying to control every single aspect, but it becomes like a cycle of frustration. The second you choose to accept that situation for what it is and see it for what it is, knowing that something better is going to come, I promise you sooner than later, it's going to come. And for me, it took literally those few hours. I got all those things that same exact day. And I think the reason it's harder to implement this is because surrendering makes us take our hands off and take our minds off of what's bothering us. And from a law of attraction perspective, it really allows you to start attracting things that you want rather than you don't want. So when we don't like something and we keep focusing on it, we're just attracting more and more and more of that. It's like an endless cycle. And the more we think about something we don't like, the more resistance we're creating. We're creating more resistance for our actual desires to come in because we're not even focusing on our actual desires. We see our actual desires as out of reach because our current reality is so bad. Does that make sense? I really, really hope this gets across. I'm going to explain it one more time in case it sounds a little confusing. So when you are trying to surrender, it is so important the first step is to accept your reality. By accepting your reality, you are acknowledging and appreciating your reality for what it is, rather than hating your reality. When we hate our reality, we create more resistance, and our dreams and our real desires will not have any space to come in. So that's why it's really, really important that the first step to surrendering is accepting your current reality. And now the second thing to do when you are trying to be in this place of surrendering is visualize and imagine how would you feel and what types of things would you be doing when this kind of dream of yours is actually coming into fruition. Because instead of focusing so hard on how is it going to come, when is it going to come, realize that it's already done in our minds. When the second a thought is created, the manifestation process has begun. And understanding that and trusting that it's already in effect, it's already in process, that's all you need to know for you to stop worrying about it. And it's really, really powerful. So what I do in order to embody that is I start to visualize or I start to script. So visualizing, you can close your eyes and just imagine and feel the emotions knowing that it's already happened and see that version of yourself who's already had that manifestation come in. So for me, going back to the example of my job, I would visualize myself working from home. I would visualize myself not going to work and working from home, doing yoga in the middle of the day, working in my sweatpants, and really just living my life how I want to. That's what I would focus on rather than focusing on how shitty my current situation is. And another way to visualize, if you're not really visual, you can write it down in your journal. And this I think is so cool because you can look back on it. And I did both of these. So you can write down the day in the life as if this manifestation has already happened. Because you're telling the universe, you're telling your body and your subconscious mind that you know it's already happened. So you're starting to embody that. And those emotions, when we start visualizing and when we start scripting, those emotions start becoming our current emotions. Like, you will, no matter what, pick up those emotions. And if you don't, maybe that's not the right outcome that you want. But for me, I would always imagine myself working from home. And anytime I just imagined and really saw myself in my room, working for myself, working on my own business at my own hours, the amount of peace and joy and almost like freedom I would feel is 10 times the amount of happiness I would ever feel thinking about work. And that's where it really comes in to really, really embody that version and those emotions as if it has already happened. Because we need to understand that now that we've thought the thought, it's coming. It takes time. It's not going to come. Well, it can, but it might not come in the snap of your fingers, but just trusting that timing. And the last thing I really, really want to encourage all of you to do if you are trying to surrender to something is give yourself the credit how far you've made it. Normally, when we're in a mode of kind of frustration and resistance, the first thing we start doing is criticizing ourselves. And I don't know why that happens, but the first thing we immediately start doing when we are in this kind of cycle of things not going our way, the first thing we do is criticize ourselves, because most of you, if you're listening to this podcast, we already know we're the creator of our reality. We already know that we're in control, but when we're kind of in those downward slumps or in those stressful situations, we forget how far we've actually come. We forget what all it took for us to get to this place. And even if we are in this place, it's okay. We basically start getting into the cycle of self-judgment because we're like, well, I created this reality, which is why I'm in this situation. And it just becomes a really negative cycle of criticizing and doubting yourself because you're not able to get what you quote unquote really want. But the truth is, you're in this place for a reason, and it's not a bad thing to be somewhere you don't want to be. When we're in a situation that we don't want to be in, there's a lesson that we're being taught. And I've always figured out the lesson, but that's because I asked. I literally sought out learning the lesson rather than focusing on the fact that my current reality is not what I really want. So make sure you're really cognizant of not getting mad at yourself and judging yourself that you're in this cycle. It's okay if you're in a more downward cycle or if you're in kind of not the best place, because that has to happen for us to get to where we want to be. Just always remember this. You have to break down in order to break through. There's always going to be highs and lows. It's never going to be smooth sailing all the time because you're always growing and we're always changing. It's just your perception of the growth and the change. For example, for me, this job that I wanted to quit so bad, 1 year before it was my dream job and I manifested that. So I could have gone in the cycle and said, man, who am I? I manifested this job. I affirmed for it for the past year and I got it and now I hate it. I could have judged myself for that, but instead I was like, you know what? I acknowledged that it was so cool that I was able to manifest this. And now I'm moving on to something different because I have changed as a person, and that is okay. So those are the 3 things that I really, really want you guys to remember. And as a quick recap, those 3 things and the 3 steps that I took and have taken multiple times in order to surrender to a situation that I wasn't really the happiest was, the first thing is to accept my current reality. When I accepted my current reality, I did not have as much resistance. I did not have as much negativity associated with my current reality. I accepted that this is my current reality and I'm okay with it. The second piece is visualizing and scripting and really embodying those emotions that you want to feel when you're out of this current reality, when you're out of this situation that you don't like so much. And the third thing is don't judge yourself. Acknowledge how far you've come and acknowledge that the change that you're making and the changes that you're experiencing are okay, and that's natural. Just remember, you do have to break down in order to break through sometimes. And that breakdown can be either getting cut off on the road, or that breakdown could be having a major heartbreak. Breakdowns are always happening right before a major breakthrough. So when you are in this situation that you are in a really crappy situation and you feel stuck and you don't know what to do, those are your 3 steps in how to surrender. And I really, really hope you guys found this episode helpful. These are the exact steps I have used multiple times in my life, and I still use them to this day in order to help me surrender to different situations. And for example, a lot of you know, I had a major family situation come up, and I had to surrender to that situation. And I will be recording an episode on manifestation affirmations relating to health and relating to family members, because I know that's something a lot of us go through. But the first step that I had to take in order for any of those affirmations to work was to surrender to the situation. So enjoy this episode, rewind it, take some notes, and I really hope you find this helpful. And if you did, I would love to hear what your biggest takeaway was or your biggest aha moment. You can either message me or leave some feedback in the reviews section if you're listening on the iTunes app. The feedback and the reviews are always super helpful, but just thank you. I love hearing your biggest takeaways from these episodes, and I hope you have a beautiful rest of your day, and cheers to surrendering. Have a beautiful day, you guys. Mwah. Bye-bye. That's all I have for you guys, and I just want to say thank you again for spending some time with me. I really hope you enjoyed this episode, and if you did, head over to my social media. I'm on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter, or go to my website if you want to subscribe to my email list, which is affirmation-addict.com. I cannot wait to hear from you guys, and I will talk to you guys super soon. Have a good one, you guys. Bye.